Hi everyone, and welcome to Photoshopping Theory, where we make image theory look a little nicer. And in this episode, I'm going to explore semiotic image theory with you. And I'm going to show you some tools that help explain the concept of semiotic image theory just a little bit better. So we're going to jump right into it. As you can see, we have this photo of this guy who's sticking his tongue out as he plays his guitar. And, it's an alright image, but what I want to do is I'm going to change it up a bit so that it kind of has a more kind of grungy look to it, a little bit of an edgier look, just to match his personality a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to our adjustment layer. I'm going to create a curves adjustment layer right here. And what we're doing is we're creating a non-destructive layer to our image. And what that means is we're not affecting the original image here in any way. We're not directly editing on top of it. We're creating things on top of it that uses information from that layer, but we're not doing anything directly to it, so that we can still have our image intact. So make sure you have your curves adjustment layer selected, and what we're going to do is come down here and we're going to create an S-curve with this line, like so. And the reason we're doing that is because we have our shadows over here, our midtones here, and our highlights over here. And what we're doing is we're bringing our shadows down, so we're making our darks darker, as you can see, and we're bringing our highlights up. We're making our lights lighter. And the reason we do this is because it creates contrast in our image. What it's doing is, by doing this, we're separating the values of our darks and lights from each other to create this kind of more edgy look. So I'm going to kind of leave it there at that. And then we're going to actually create another adjustment layer. This time we're going to go to black and white. So we're going to desaturate the image, and we're going to just move these around. Even though it's a black and white image, we can affect the color information so that things that have red in them, you can make them darker or lighter, according to however you like it. So I'm going to bring the reds up a little bit. I'm going to bring the yellow up just a tad. Bring the blue down a bit just to create some separation between our guy and the tent behind him. And I'm going to bring this magenta down too, just to create some depth to the guitar as well. So that looks pretty good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on this button right here. So we've got a new layer. It's blank. There's nothing here. And what I'm going to do is come over here to our filter. We're going to go to render, and we're going to click clouds. And as you can see, we created some clouds here. What I'm going to do is hit Control T or Command T on a Mac, and I'm going to actually resize this just to stretch out those clouds that were rendered for us and kind of spread them out a bit. And I'm going to actually rotate them a little bit too. And hit enter. And as you can see, we have our clouds rendered, but it's sitting on top of our image. So we can't see what's underneath. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our blending modes here, and we're going to go to overlay. And as you can see, where it was white, we can see underneath, and where it was black, we will still see those clouds. And so I'm just going to move this around a little bit just so we can see his face a little better. Something like that. Right there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer, and then I'm going to go over here to our color panel right here, double click that, and I'm going to pick this kind of brownish orange color. I hit OK. And what I'm going to do is hit Alt backspace, or Option Delete on a Mac, and what it does is it's gonna, by hitting that, we're gonna fill that layer over here with this color here. So as you can see, the same thing happened. We have our layer, and it's kind of sitting on top of the other layers. So what we're gonna do is go back to our blending mode, and this time we're gonna click color dodge. So as you can see, what it did was it kind of affected the kind of grays or kind of grayish areas in our image, and it gave us this kind of sepia tone to our image. So we now that we have this, we can kind of think about semiotic image theory a little bit more. So in semiotic image theory, we have three things that are kind of important in thinking about and understanding a photograph. One is the sign carrier. The sign carrier is the thing that which the image is on. You know, in a lot of cases, it's the actual photograph, the paper that has the photograph. For our case, it'll be your computer monitor. The screen is our sign carrier. And then on that sign carrier is the thing that we see, the thing that we recognize as an image, and that is called a referent. The referent, you know, Roland Barthes, a French theorist who spends a lot of time thinking about semiotic image theory, has called it that which has been. And what he means by that is that there had to be something there, something physically there in front of the camera for us to have an image of it. And so in this case, we have this guy playing his guitar, you know, in front of these tents. And that's what makes our referent. Our referent is not just the guy or just, you know, what we see. It's what we see because it had existed at some point in time. And so the other thing that we have in semiotic image theory is what we call a sense. And the sense is kind of that thing, kind of what the word implies. It's our emotions. It's kind of our thoughts about it. It's kind of the meaning we attach to the referent. So, you know, when someone asks you what a photograph means, what they're really trying to ask you is about the sense. You know, what is it that you're bringing to this photograph? What meanings are you bringing to it? And you're reading into it. You know, when you see this guy sticking his tongue out at you, what does that mean to you? And that's what the sense, part of what the sense is. And so what we're doing here by applying all these adjustments to the image is we're trying to change the sense. So what I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to scroll down and shift click to select all these layers. I'm going to hit Control G or Command G on a Mac to group them together. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just click on the side to turn it off for a sec. And what we're doing is we're trying to change the sense of this image. You know, before we had this kind of color photograph. It's an alright photograph of this guy, but you know, we're trying to kind of create this edgy look to try and, you know, create a certain sense about him and this photograph and just kind of how we approach and understand this photograph. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to create another curves adjustment layer. And this time I'm just going to kind of darken everything a bit, right around there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. This is our mask. And I'm just going to make sure it's selected. And what we can do with our mask is we can make sure that whatever effect that we've applied, we can make it so that it does show up in certain parts and does not show up in others. And how we're going to do it for this is I'm going to click here, and we're going to select the elliptical marquee tool. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create kind of a oval right here, just like that. And then I'm going to hit Alt backspace or Option delete on the Mac. And as you can see, it's a little subtle, but where it's black here, inside this circle here is the effect that curves where I darkened everything is not being applied, and it is being applied everything to outside of that oval. Just like here, where it's all white means that the effect that you have set up will be visible, and where it's black means it will not be visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select off of that, and the other thing I'm going to do is, once again, making sure this is selected, I'm going to go up here to Filter, I'm going to go to Blur, I'm going to go to Gaussian Blur, and then I'm just going to bring this out a little bit, and I'm going to blur this. So the reason I do this is if I do this, you can see kind of this hard edge around here. I don't want that. What I really want is to kind of create this kind of nice transition so that, you know, you don't really see the oval as distinctly. And so it'll create this burned kind of edge for us. And it'll, because the center is lighter than this dark bar, it kind of draws our attention to the center and to this guy's face. So we're going to hit OK. And we're going to do one more thing. We're going to go up to, we're going to select these guys. Once again, holding Shift, we're going to select all the layers, and we're going to hit Control, Shift, Alt, E. And what that did is it took everything in these selections, everything in this group, all these adjustments, including this one, and it created one image out of all of that. So we can edit this just one image. On a Mac, you can hit Command, Option, Shift, E to do the same thing. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Filter, we're going to go up to Blur, and we're going to go to Radial Blur. I'm just going to bring this up a little bit. We're going to select Spin. I'm leaving quality at best. You can bring it down if you want. And we're going to leave the amount at 1. And I'm going to hit OK. It's going to render it real quick. And you might not have been able to tell, but so I'm going to deselect this. But if you look right around here, right around this edge, especially if you look here, you can see when I turn this back on, it's kind of blurred out. You know, kind of, it looks like kind of like motion blur. So click, you know, it's on, it's off. And you can see that it's blurred out. And what that did was kind of with the same thing with this layer here. It kind of just brings our attention to the center a little bit more because this is kind of out of focus. But at the same time, it also creates this kind of sense of motion, this kind of energy, brings a sense of energy to the photograph. That kind of gives it a little bit more of that edginess that I wanted. So this is what we have, and you know, semiotic image theory kind of gives us a way to approach and to think about and understand. You know, I want to change what this photo looks like so that, you know, kind of changes its meaning a little bit. Well, if you think in those terms, you're thinking in a very semiotic way, and you know, by doing so, we can kind of create this very emotive, very sensory feel to a photograph. So this is what we have. I hope you enjoyed. And if you're interested in more, there'll be more tutorials coming your way. Thanks.